Well, move aside, Mario, because another mascot might be entering the ring. Mascot characters in video games have been around since the inception of the industry. You know what I'm talking about, those characters that instantly come to mind when thinking of certain game series or even entire companies. Characters like Mario, Sonic, and Pikachu are instantly recognizable, and the series that they come from are just as well recognized and have been the topics of numerous amounts of praise, criticism, and online discourse. And as groups of people choose their sides on which of these beloved series is truly the best, competition starts to form between the fans and the respective companies. It's truly a survival of the fittest. If you can't keep up, you'll get left in the dust, and the winner gets to keep the fans, the increased sales, and ultimately, the financial gain. It may be a brutal cycle, but it's a healthy one, as it forces every company to be at the top of their game, constantly innovating and providing something new. Or so you'd hope. But when Sony comes along and decides to release a big AAA PS5 release with a niche character whose origins are hardly known by most, you have to wonder, does this chrome-plated protagonist really have what it takes to be a system seller, or will he be left in the dust with the rest of the failures? That is what I'll be delving into in this video, so join me as we take a dive into Team Asobi's latest installment in the Astro Bot series. But to understand where we are now, we need to go back to where it all began, to when this character was just starting to take form. So let's reel it back. As mentioned already, Astro Bot was the brainchild of Team Asobi, a former division of the larger Japan studio. But rather than being hailed as anything revolutionary, his origins can be traced back to the release of two lowly tech demos released for the PS4 and the PSVR. While forms of Astro could be found in both of these games, this fella's potential wasn't fully realized until the release of Astro Bot Rescue Mission in 2018, which finally gave him his role as the main character and kicked off his entire series. The game finds Astro platforming across multiple different planets in an attempt to save his lost crew of little robots after an alien with a lack of manners causes their ship to crash. And as the first official game in the series, it set up good groundwork for what was to come for this little guy. Despite being a mildly niche game on a niche console, Rescue Mission still released to critical acclaim all across the board. It seemed like every notable game reviewer could not get enough of what this little guy had to offer. And they were in luck, because in 2 years' time, 2020 would see the release of Astro's Playroom, a game that miraculously comes with every single PS5. This was yet another tech demo, this time meant to show off the capabilities of the new PS5 controller, the DualSense. But compared to the last console's tech demo, which was basically just a few gimmicky little experiments meant to give your PS4 camera something to do, this was an actual game with 5 fully fleshed out levels for you to explore, complete with numerous references and collectibles highlighting PlayStation's history. With that, he was thrust into the limelight, and Astro Bot went from a niche little character to a household name. Things could only go up for this guy. And up they did, when Sony would announce something that I would not have ever expected. So when it came time for Sony's State of Play presentation on May 30th of 2024, they announced the first full-on, fleshed-out console release for the 9th generation, simply titled Astro Bot, and it was later released that same year on September 6th, all for the low price of $59.99. Well, I suppose that's pretty standard pricing nowadays, if not even generous. So let's pop this disc in, grab a hold of our DualSense, and take a look at what's inside. The game starts off in the far reaches of space, with Astro and his crew of robots flying inside the cockpit of a PlayStation 5. Oh, so that's what this thing is supposed to be. A spaceship. But anyway, while Astro and his crew were living it up in there, that big green alien fellow from the first game shows up again. He cracks the mothership open, steals the CPU, and causes the ship to crash land on a deserted planet, scattering all of Astro's crew across different worlds along with the ship's most vital components. And to top it all off, Astro freaking dies! Yeah, I gotta say, this story is nothing too special. It's literally the same plot as Rescue Mission, except make the game longer and replace this floating ball thing with the PS5. Make no mistake though, the story is not what this game is meant to be played for. More than anything else, it's about the gameplay. The story is simply there to justify it. Luckily for us, a PS5 controller crash lands nearby, and by some mystical powers, is able to resurrect our mechanical hero. With his life regained, Astro must gird up his loins and set off into the cosmos to save everyone and everything. Now, contrary to the seemingly popular trend of most games trying to be these large, open-world experiences with loads of objectives and things to do in them, the way Astro Bot plays is a lot more on the traditional side of things. It instead chooses to follow the time-tested structure of worlds and levels, and whenever you enter a level, you are tasked with one main objective: get to the end goal. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. But enough dilly-dallying, let's jump into our first level and see what's in store. Whoa. Right off the bat, the game introduces you to a seizure-inducing level of stimulation for your senses to take in. The music is full of energy, the level is vibrant and colorful, and the overall theme appears to be very flamingo-based. This level wastes no time showing you the game's main mechanics, and as a good first level should, demonstrates what is to be expected of the player's ability from this point forward. It goes through your usual platformer protocol as it introduces you to your first enemies in combat, first power-up, and some easy to overcome obstacles, and in general is just a good time. Seriously, I don't know what it is, but there's just something about Sky Garden that I really like. Whenever I jump in, it's just pure bliss. I'll be playing this level in heaven one day, I'll tell you that. In fact, that can be said for pretty much every level in this game. Just simple fun. The game may not be especially long or deep narratively, but it doesn't have to be, because it makes up for it in so many different ways. I was not exaggerating with what I said earlier. Everywhere you look in this game, there is always some friendly face cheering you on, and even in the most unsuspecting places, you may just find something that'll put a smile on your face. The animations are so lively, the graphics are gorgeous, and the attention to detail is through the roof here. It's so easy to see that Astro Bot was the product of a passionate team of developers who legitimately enjoy doing what they do. And I don't mean to get corny here, but you can really see it while playing this game. This passion that somehow seeps its way into the very blades of grass that Astro walks on. It's truly incredible. Throughout the duration of each level, you'll be able to come across two collectible goodies that the game has to offer: puzzle pieces, and more importantly, members of your lost crew, which come in two distinct flavors. First, you've got your standard vanilla, nothing crazy, but then you have the special bots that feature some cool cameos from various PlayStation titles, from the fantastical to the grounded, kid-friendly to mature. Don't get me wrong, these are essentially just nostalgia bait and ways for Sony to advertise some of their IPs, which could be said about a lot of this game's aspects when looked at under a certain lens. Yet Astro Bot manages to do it in a way that doesn't feel cheap or disingenuous. They probably get away with it because of how cute these little guys are. I mean, look at them, they're adorable. And honestly, I'd be a liar if I said there wasn't a smile on my face every single time I saw a character I recognized. They got characters in here like Ratchet and Clank, Rayman, Kazuya, Cap from Gravity Rush, the Bean from Fall Guys, Cloud, Sephiroth, Crash Bandicoot. Come on, you had me at Crash Bandicoot, man. You better get used to these bots really quickly too, because you'll be required to have a certain amount in order to fight each world's final boss. But what I especially love is this game's choice for none of the worlds to really conform to a specific theme or setting. It's common practice for platformers like this to create worlds around specific themes, and while I may not exactly be Mark Brown from Game Maker's Toolkit, I do know that there's lots of advantages to doing that. For example, it can help at creating a greater feeling of progression towards a certain goal while also creating more cohesive world building. Not to mention that it keeps the cognitive load to a minimum since the theming stays more consistent. But Astro doesn't do any of that stuff. for better or for worse. Because this story takes place on an intergalactic scale, there's a lot more leeway for these levels to be more varied. And not only does this variation provide me with better B-roll, but it also allows for a lot more experimentation. Each level is completely unique to the last one, and there is never a dull moment. One level will have you freeing a giant robot from bondage, and another will have you rolling across an obstacle course on an armadillo like this is Mario Galaxy or something. All of them are a blast to complete, and if you ever think to yourself that it's run out of new things to show you, just play one more level and this game will prove you wrong faster than you can take that statement back. And the music in this game is just... ooh. The tracks in this game are bops, bangers, they absolutely slap. Really, whatever slang you want to use, that's what these songs are. I don't know what these composers were on when they created these tracks, but whatever it was must have been good. Every song in this game is phenomenal. This is the kind of music that I would listen to outside of the game. That's the level it's at. This is like up there with the Metroid Prime soundtrack in my eyes and deserves to be held in the Library of Congress as a piece of gaming history. But I could go on about this music for a while, so let me stop myself before I make this video an hour and a half long. Another aspect that makes this game so varied is its wide array of wacky power-ups that aid Astro on his adventure. Though we would be here all day if I were to describe each and every one. There's that many. They switch up the gameplay quite a lot, and due to the sheer amount of them, I'd be willing to bet that most of them were the direct product of some of that aforementioned experimentation. One of my favorites has to be this indestructible metal ball that he can roll around in. It's so cool to use this power-up and basically become an impenetrable force of nature as you clog up vacuums and withstand barrages of hellfire. Consequently though, not every single one of these power-ups land. Some of them are severely underused, only appearing in a measly few levels. But the ones that do land on their feet, and no part of the game demonstrates this better than the boss fights. Admittedly, the bosses are fairly easy, but they are engaging, and will still put a few of the skills you've acquired to the test. I especially love the set pieces that spring up mid-battle, the way the ocean splits beneath you in Wako Taco and the crumbling buildings in the mighty Chewy fight are a nice way to shake up the pace for these colossal creatures. And it's all enhanced by those sweet adaptive triggers. Oh, and that's another thing, Astro himself controls great. He's tight and responsive, but not to the point of twitchy, just the way I like it. Hey. Look, it's already been 4 months. Could you please just let me finish this video already?